Please welcome one of our industry's greatest creative forces, Vince Zampella.
Where does the Vince Zampella story begin in the industry? I've always been a gamer. I've always played, RPGs, board games, video games. It never occurred to me that that's something that people will pay you to do.
Yeah.
So the opportunity came up to work at GameTech, and I immediately switched into it and was like, well, yeah. There's some steps in between there. Then I went to 2015.
Okay, and that's where the modern Vince Zampella story begins, I think it's fair to say. Of course, you led the team on Medal of Honor Allied Assault, which really was the first significant history-based first-person shooter.
That was, DreamWorks Interactive, EA with Spielberg. Went from there to making a game that was kind of competitive with it for Activision.
Hi, welcome to Infinity Ward.
Glad you could make it today.
And that was where Call of Duty was born. It was a nice, tight-knit team where you know everybody and everyone just kind of wears a lot of hats.
We're all about realism, authenticity, and intensity. It's about your squad. You always act as a squad, not as a lone gunman. When we started Respawn, we had a lot of people on day one because there was a bunch of people that left Infinity Ward and came to Respawn.
Hello, everyone. It feels really great to be back on the stage and finally sharing with you Titanfall.
I mean, for us, it really is just about making something new, making it fun.
Got you.
Don't just copy what we did because it might be fun. Do something different, do something on top of it, do something completely, the other direction. And let's see where we can go and get the most fun out there that we can.
What you just saw was the cinematic reveal trailer for Apex Legends, the brand new free-to-play battle royale shooter from Respawn Entertainment.
The best part about Apex Legends, it's not just free to play, it's available right now.
My dad always tells me the story about the first time we went to see Star Wars, the original. He just wanted to take me to a movie, and it just changed my life, obviously. And we wanted to do a vote around the team at that time, and it was unanimous, hands up around the room. Yes, we have to do a Star Wars game. There's a lot of people in the team right now at Respawn that we've worked together for, 15, 16 years. So that to me is a better accomplishment. It's about that like-minded people getting together to do something that they love, that they can put their heart into.
It's about those relationships and making sure we treat each other and our fans respectfully. Because ultimately we're all a big group. We're in this because we love it. Whether playing, making, just being, talking, it's a passion-driven industry.
And the Grammy goes to Star Wars, Jedi, Survivor.
When we set out to create Medal of Honor Above and Beyond, we knew we wanted to bring the series back to its roots. It weaves in the personal stories of the veterans and survivors of the war through powerful interviews that help set the stage for what players will experience. It's more than just a game.
Colette won the Oscar for Best Documentary Short Film.
To everyone at Electronic Arts and Respawn and Oculus, especially Vince, Dusty, and Laura, thank you so much.
I've been waiting a number of years to say this. This is fucking Battlefield 6!
People are finally seeing your game officially for the first time. So what does it feel like to be in this moment?
It's validating in some respects. You put something out there, you try something. To see it work and to see people respond to it well is validating. On the other side of that is it doesn't always work. And so you change things, you dial things in. Without iteration, you can't get to, I wouldn't say perfection, but to the best quality that we have the ability to do.
I've never really seriously considered retiring because it's what I do. This is what I know. It's what I love. I'm happy doing this. I think I'd be bored.
Tell me I've led a good life. Tell me I'm a good man. In the closing moments of the movie Saving Private Ryan, James Ryan turns to his wife at the Normandy American Cemetery and asks those two simple, devastating questions. Not about success or achievement, but about worth. Was his life worthy of the people who believed in him? Today, we're here at D.I.C.E to honor a good man, Vince Zampella, a dear friend to many of us, and one of the most consequential leaders our industry has ever known. Vince forever changed how we play games through franchises he built like Call of Duty, Titanfall, Apex Legends, Star Wars Jedi, and Battlefield 6. But more than that, he changed what players expect and what studios believe is possible. He had an extraordinary gift for spotting talent, empowering developers, and building foundations that others could stand on. I still vividly remember introducing him as the creator of Call of Duty to Sam Houser, the creator of Grand Theft Auto, at our awards after party in 2013. It was an electric moment. Two minds who had each reshaped the medium, meeting not as rivals, but as peers. Vince shaped culture in a way few have. As we all know, tragically, Vince was taken from us late last year. And today, here at D.I.C.E, a conference he loved deeply, we've gathered in celebration of a good life. And that brings me back to Saving Private Ryan. The year is 2001, E3, 25 years ago. Inside the massive EA booth at the LA Convention Center, Vince and a small band of maverick developers from 2015 Inc. were holed up in a rectangular theater off to the side. What they were showing would change games forever. It was a demo of Medal of Honor Allied Assault, a franchise born from Steven Spielberg's vision, and it unmistakably brought the Omaha Beach landing from Saving Private Ryan to life. I was a kid who had just graduated university. A few days earlier, I was unsure of my career path, but I remember sitting in that theater in 2001 and being blown away, quite literally. Mortars slammed into the boat, flames erupted, soldiers were thrown in the air, and then the ramp of the Higgins boat dropped. Men ran forward. Many didn't make it. You heard your commanding officer shouting in your ear to move, to go, to survive, and somehow, miraculously, you did, diving into the water, crawling forward, terrified and alive. That demo didn't just show realism, it showed possibility. It revealed the cinematic, emotional power of games, and that became the blueprint for more than 2 decades of military action games that would dominate the charts. When Vince helped create Medal of Honor Allied Assault and later Call of Duty, he didn't want players to feel powerful alone. He wanted them to feel part of something. The mission mattered more than the individual. The squad mattered more than the spotlight. And the more I've reflected on Vince, the more I realize that philosophy wasn't just in his games, it was who he was. Vince was always about the team. He had an uncanny ability to identify great directors, great developers, and then just get out of their way. And above all else, the most important squad in his life was his family and his 3 incredible children. Of course, this was a long way from where Vince began. After dropping out at the Broward Community College in Florida, Vince worked in a bulk food store in Fort Lauderdale, filling bins of nuts and weighing bags of dried apples. In his spare time, he designed greeting cards and invitations for friends using Print Shop. Then one day, he heard about a job testing games like Wheel of Fortune at a small Florida game company called Game Tech. And from there, one of the most incredible careers in video games began. Vince didn't just make games, he loved games, and many of the games that you all made. He loved the people who made them. Whenever a big new game came out, we'd always text about it, and inevitably, he was already playing it and telling me what he thought. When I was writing the final hours of Titanfall back in 2013, I spent time at his house, sitting by the pool in the backyard, listening to him talk. And what struck me most was his restlessness. Nothing was ever quite good enough. That relentless hunger for excellence drove him to believe he could always make a better game, a better company, and be a better leader. In the weeks since his passing, I've thought a lot about what made Vince unique and what was his superpower. Of course, he knew how to build great teams and make great games, but inside massive companies built on process and politics, Vince was able to stay stubbornly human. He was direct, impatient with nonsense, and fiercely loyal to the people doing the work. As he liked to say, he was always just a few days away from quitting every job he ever had. And somehow, that's what made him invaluable. He could be inside the system without becoming it. That independence let him always put the player first and push even the biggest organizations to take risks. For instance, I'll always remember the story of the 50-foot Titan at E3 2013. When Vince signed the deal to form Respawn at EA, he negotiated a special clause giving him $2 million of discretionary marketing spend where he could decide what to do with it. Well, the marketing team said no to the idea of building a 50-foot Titan statue at E3 until Vince calmly reminded them of that little clause. Sure enough, that Titan stood in the lobby of E3, as you may remember, a towering monument to what Vince represented. And that was Vince. He was able to push everyone, his teams, his partners, to be better. Beyond business, Vince was a true friend and one of the first people to reach out when I lost my house last year in the fires and my dad last August. I will always cherish our dinners, our conversations, and his endless drive to top himself. He celebrated the freedom he had earned, yet also felt deeply the weight of relationships that didn't quite work out personally or professionally. I think it made him keep climbing and keep searching and keep trying to be better. The hardest part of all of this is that I genuinely believe Vince still had his greatest game ahead of him. Even last fall, we talked about what he wanted to do post-Battlefield 6 and how he wanted to keep pushing the industry forward. While we may never get that next game from Vince, his legacy will endure. He created franchises that will stand the test of time. He inspired generations of developers and leaders, and he gave players, myself included, some of the most defining experiences of the past 2 decades. So if we return one last time to that question, Vince, you led a good life, you were a good man, and we, your friends, your peers, your players, will never forget you.
What's more, I think, more meaningful and impactful than like the credits of what he was involved in is his actual effect on everyone he touched and interacted with. Even to the point, like, I mean, technically we've never worked together, but he's had a huge effect on me as not just me as a game maker, but as a character.
You know, we first met at this company in Tulsa, this small startup. It was only maybe like a week or two in that he came over to me and he was like, hey, we have to formulate a project document. What are the missions or the levels that are going to happen in this game? This was a Medal of Honor Allied Assault at the time. He's like, can you come up with that stuff in the next couple of weeks or so? And I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. Looking back, I think, that's a lot of trust to give somebody.
That is the thing through Vince's entire career, that no matter who was around him, he found a way to get the best out of them, to get them to deliver excellence time and time and time again.
One of the things we shared is we had that love and that bite before there was a lot of big money in this industry. And I'm sure he would be doing it even if the industry didn't grow at all. And it was just a fun way to spend our lives, to create interactive entertainment. And I know for a fact that's true, because I think he's better than me, and I feel that.
I think from the team perspective, they always valued that Vince had their best interest. They knew he was going to go into the arena and fight for what is going to be best for the game. And I think because you knew he had your back, you knew he was going to be the one who's championing for this to be the best game it can be and for the team to have the ability to do their best work, people loved him for it.
I didn't know what a servant leader was until I met Vince. And to be honest with you, I don't know if Vince knew what a servant leader was, but he was the best servant leader I ever knew.
It's the boldness of it. Like to have a leader who believes that strongly in what they're doing and then creates the environment for success for everybody, artists, animators, gameplay designers. Everywhere you looked was just people doing the best work of their lives.
The creativity is maybe 1% of it. It's as a leader, as a character, as someone that's getting the backs of the people around him while he's trying to help everyone push forward. It was just incredible. The power that he had for someone who's kind of chill. You don't have to be a dick to be powerful.
It's an honor to be here with friends, colleagues, peers, to show our respects to Vince. I also want to thank the Academy for this time, for Electronic Arts for doing such a great job putting the tributes together. Vince was somebody who is not just defined by the franchises he helped create, but the bar of greatness he set with everything that he did. My relationship with Vince was kind of behind the scenes, and I'll take you a little bit on this journey with me. Back in the day when he was in charge of Call of Duty, I was at Xbox Game Studios, and there was this big show every June, E3, where Call of Duty always had a role in our show. And Vince and I would start exchanging email about this time of year, kind of jabbing each other on who was going to open or close the show with what we were creating. And I always loved the banter back and forth of what can our teams create, the inspiration that our teams took, and each of us took, from watching the work that the teams did. And I remember sitting at E3, regardless of how it had played out or where Call of Duty was in the show, or where a Halo or something else was in the show, and really just the congratulations of great work done by great teams. Through Vince's leadership and the work with the team, Call of Duty set not only a bar for first-person shooters, but I really think a bar for what theatrical, creative storytelling could mean in our medium, and it was fantastic just to be part of that. Vince's legacy of leading without ego, leading with team, is something that I took a lot away from in just watching him and how he led his teams to achieve such greatness. Now, when he left Activision and went to start Respawn, I thought maybe I would get a little reprieve from our annual competition. And then I remember E3 2013, he shows up with that Titanfall video as we're going through the shows, and sure enough, it closes the show at our E3, and it should. And we see it through all of Vince's work, whether it's Titanfall, whether it's Apex Legends, or the amazing Battlefield 6 release this year, that he was always able to work with the team to set the bar even higher and inspire such great work. I think his legacy in this industry will be exactly that, of getting a team rallied to do amazing things, working together without self, being really a selfless leader in leading to such amazing things. It's so great that here at D.I.C.E. we get to spend time recognizing his contribution to this industry. For me, I feel like I've lost a bit of a rival, more of a friend, and somebody who will never be forgotten. Thank you.
かなり大きな貢献というか、今のその大きな市場のゲーム市場というか、そういうのを作った人だと思うんですけど、コール・オブ・デューティー、メダル・オーナーから始まって、今につながるんですけど、その大きな市場というか、ゲームイコール FPS のシューターみたいなその規模まで、それを最初から終わりまで作り上げたというか、それに関わったのがビンスだと思いますし、そのパワーというか、そのことでゲーム業界がすごく盛り上がって、ゲームの規模、市場の規模も広まったので、彼がいなければ 今のゲーム業界はなかったと、そのぐらいのものだと思いますね。
I feel like they took a lot of creative risks when they were building Call of Duty. They ventured beyond what other shooters were doing and kind of rolled the dice, hoping that players would come along with them, and it worked.
Vince rewrote the book on first-person action-adventure games. Like, the games that Vince has created are the standard now, almost 20 years later, for all of these games. And I think will continue to be the standard for what people expect for these games for decades to come.
I remember the first time I played Modern Warfare. It was the best game I think I had ever played in my entire life. I remember the first time I played sections of Modern Warfare 2. Again, Vince and the team at Infinity Ward perfected how these games were made.
I believe he helped create really fertile conditions for a whole generation of game developers.
And that's not because of strategy or tactics. That's because of talent led by Vince, kicking ass. And they built an industry.
He just, really wanted to make great games for players with, a team of developers he loved working with. I don't think it was really about how do I change the industry or how do I make a legendary game. I think it was just simpler than that.
When I think about Vince, I think about a guy who somehow balanced the necessity of being the face of a company or a franchise while always giving credit to the team and remaining humble and down to earth. That is a hard balance to strike, but he did it consistently throughout his entire career, throughout the many games that he headed up and the many teams that he led. And I think he serves as a great example for all of us.
これもずっと内緒にしてましたけど、実は当時、メタルギアソリッド4が出た後かな、FPS のメタルギアを作ってくれってヴィンスに言って、でそれで考えましょうということがあって、あれは実現してないんですけど、あれが実現してたら結構時代も変わったかなと思うんですけど、その後も、いろいろありましたけど、彼も独立してリスポーン作ったんですけど、そういう経験もあって、僕はコナミを辞めて独立する時に非常にいろいろサポートというか相談にも乗っていただいて、スタジオも見せてもらって、彼のスタジオのいいとことかも、うちのスタジオに取り入れたりしたんですけど、そういう関係で
Vince's openness with his team to go for it, to try things, to not tread the path that had already been tread, and to kind of show players what could be. And they didn't stop doing it. I felt like Modern Warfare, every version that they released, iterated successfully on the formula that they had invented. And under Vince's stewardship, that worked really well.
Yeah, obviously Call of Duty is maybe, the greatest franchise in video game history. I'm a player and a fan too, so I've played a lot of the Call of Duty games over the years. They've inspired our vision for Star Wars games, and I think they've inspired millions and millions and millions of other people.
And he'll be the first to say it was the teams around him, it was the people around him, but there's a constant there. There's something that got the quality bar up with all of those teams and got the commitment to excellence across the board, not just in the game, but how the games were launched, how the games were marketed, which is so important. And that, it speaks for itself. Vince was the real deal.
Like was said there, Vince was the real deal. We first met over 20 years ago and became, I'd say, easy friends. And we spent a lot of time together, often at events, and in many ways, we grew up in this industry together. We're about the same age. We shared a lot of the same interests, both obviously professionally and many, many personally. We even started inviting him out to our Bethesda events, even the private ones that we had. And I would always seek his advice with every game that I did, or how to maneuver all that was going on in the industry. And we'd always spend a lot of time together here at D.I.C.E. I know many in the audience, a lot of you did. He and I were on the Academy Board of Directors together here, and this truly was a special place for him. You could always see and feel so many gravitate toward him if you saw him in the hallways or around, because Vince was cool. And he was, and I think a lot of people who knew him well would agree, he was probably the least full of shit person I knew. And sometimes he didn't mind pointing out when someone else was. Vince was cool, so cool, my oldest son has only ever asked to meet or get his picture with one game developer, Vince, twice. And Vince never really changed. He was still that guy that you first met, except he had a new t-shirt maybe once a year. That was like change for Vince. Vince was cool. He knew it was cool about a game, and he knew instinctively what a great game was. He knew how to take a game from average to good to great, and he knew what needed to be done to get there. He knew how hard it would be, the effort and personal sacrifice it would take. And he wasn't afraid of doing it. It was never about him. It was always about the game, most of all, about the team making it. All games are complex, right? Whether you're creating large open worlds or delivering finely tuned, perfectly balanced shooters, you're dealing with immense complexity. His coworkers will tell you he had this rare ability to cut through that complexity. He would define the why, the feeling you were chasing, the experience that you wanted. And then he would let the team figure it out the best way to do it. That type of balance it's extremely rare. Too much direction, and you can smother the creativity. Too little, you get chaos. Vince always seemed to know the perfect balance, and that built trust with his teams. And he used that trust to build others up, to inspire them to push beyond what they thought was possible. Most of all, he knew that it was always about the team, knew what a team needed to make something great, and he would do anything to protect that. And here's something we don't talk about enough, particularly in our industry. Vince made his teams feel safe. That is so important. The only way to make great games is to be safe, safe to experiment, safe to fail, safe to push back when needed. If you work for Vince, you don't have to worry about that. His teams knew that when something went wrong, because look, when you do this, something always goes wrong, Vince would take the heat. And if something went right, he gave credit where it was due. He was not only an inspiring leader for his teams, he was inspiring to me. Like I mentioned, we were on the D.I.C.E. board together here, and we'd often discuss with the board and amongst the two of us also how to not just push the art of game creation further, but how to celebrate all who do so. And in our last board meeting that we had together before this D.I.C.E., in that meeting, the board discusses the individual career awards, the Hall of Fame, the Pioneer, the Lifetime Achievement. And even though I know he's in the meeting, sometimes we're talking behind the scenes to each other during them also, and it might be awkward for him, I nominated Vince, knowing full well that he would say no in a Vince colorful way. But of course he said no, because for Vince, it was never about him. It was always, always about the team. But I felt he deserved it. And it's not just the games. It was his leadership, his relationships, his ability to spot and nurture talent. Most of all, for defining the industry we have today and the one of tomorrow.
Yeah, look, you have to remember Respawn was founded originally from a group of folks that were really seeking independence.
Vince had a whole team of developers come with him to start that company, and they were able to achieve something great.
And I think he showed the world how much talent matters. Literally starting from nothing, and here we get Titanfall and we get Apex Legends after being wiped out. That's pretty freaking amazing.
And I've talked about Vince's team really almost kind of being this positive kind of rebellion.
When I had that first conversation about joining Respawn, I said, well, what's the game? Do you have an idea of what you want the game to be? And he's like, well, it's only the biggest franchise in the world. Is that big enough? And I'm like, Star Wars? And he's like, exactly.
I don't know how to thank him enough for his contribution to making great Star Wars games and unlocking the potential of this medium inside the franchise. And there's more to come. This doesn't end with the video games we're making right now. I think this is a foundation for continued storytelling in a world that Respawn created that is unprecedented in anything I've worked on.
It's always said, if you're gonna put your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and you're gonna put your name on it at the end, it's gotta be great. There's no compromise. And he also was the mindset of, if you're gonna ask players for money, give them something that they believe is gonna be great.
Vince wanted to make a single-player Star Wars game with the vibe of the original trilogy.
You know, at the time, everyone was shifting to make more online-focused games, multiplayer games.
At the end, there was a lot of questions of how is this going to be received? Are people going to like it?
He really always, it seems like, tapped into what he knew was going to resonate with gamers and what he wanted to play as a gamer.
Very early, in the middle of the night, I start getting texts from Vince with review scores. And they were outstanding. And he's just texting me, he's like, we did it. People are loving the game. And I came back, I was in Europe for a while, got back a week later, and Vince came into my office. We didn't say anything, he just gave me a big hug.
Watching him lead and having him lead us for so long, we've become him in the sense of discipline and drive and ambition and execution and the standard for excellence with the players in mind first. And it's that's, thank you to Vince, that's in our DNA now.
And he wasn't afraid. And I think fear keeps a lot of us back. And I really admire that about him. And I think he's better than me in that regard. And I really admire that.
Few people in the history of this industry have created as many iconic games as Vince Zampella. But what I want to talk to you about today isn't just what Vince built, it's about who he was. Now, I got to work with Vince for the last 15 years. And one of the most extraordinary things about him was just how human he was. Very real, very grounded. And the thing is, he was always this way. Over the last several weeks, I've been able to spend time with his family and even some of his childhood friends. And I've heard the most hilarious stories. From being a funny, mischievous gamer kid growing up in Florida, to his massive success and major accomplishments in gaming, clearly, he never changed. What I loved about him is that was especially true in the moments when things were hardest, when the path forward wasn't clear, and when he had every reason to choose comfort over courage but didn't. When Vince co-founded Respawn, what followed him wasn't just ideas, it was people. More than 80% of his team chose to walk away from secure jobs to follow him into the unknown. That doesn't happen because of contracts, titles, or money. It happens because of trust, because of the deep respect he earned from everyone he worked with. Losing him has been inconceivably difficult. I wake up many days just still in disbelief that he's gone, and I know so many people feel that way, especially his family and his 3 amazing kids. But as we try to make sense of this and find a way forward, I've been thinking a lot about how my own life is different because Vince was in it, and about what will ultimately define his legacy. And I keep coming back to 3 themes, a lot of things you've heard today. His relentless commitment to excellence, his unblinking courage to always speak the truth and be real, and the way he unconditionally showed up for people in his life. So first, about his commitment to excellence. Vince believed deeply that how you do any one thing is how you do everything. The details mattered, the craft of game making mattered, results mattered. He cared about everything. The team dynamics, the marketing programs, every word on a website, the feel of the gameplay, the design of levels, the weapon systems, all of it. Now, I would sometimes get calls from Vince about small details that just weren't right. There was one Saturday he called because he went into the office and he realized that our facilities team had installed carpet in the lobby of his building that he didn't like. And honestly, the carpet really wasn't good. But we immediately got it changed because I knew how much it mattered to him to create the best environment for his team so they could do their best work, so they could deliver the best games to players. His commitment to excellence came from a deep sense of responsibility. He set a high bar, but he helped people reach it. And that's why the games he touched didn't just succeed, they changed expectations, they changed our industry. Now, the second dimension of Vince's characters was his courage to be deeply honest. We've heard a lot about that today. Vince told the truth, always. Even when it was uncomfortable, sometimes especially when it was uncomfortable, even when it would have been easier to not speak the truth. And his candor wasn't performative or harsh, it was grounded in his desire to create the best games possible. And that directness with people was often mixed with a wicked sense of humor. Now, when I first started working with him, I was his marketing partner. I went to go visit the brand new Respawn offices in Van Nuys, folding tables and all. And I was there to present a set of marketing research that I thought was pretty great and I was honestly pretty proud of. But I knew this was a tough crowd, core game developers, I mean the OGs here. So I expected just a few people to show up. Instead, I walked into a room with about 30 people waiting. And I turned to Vince and I said, wow, you guys really take marketing seriously, this is awesome. And without missing a beat, he said, well, actually, most of these people didn't get their code checked in on time, so they're being punished and have to sit through your marketing presentation. I laughed so hard, and I did proceed to deliver the full punishment to the team. But that was Vince, honest, calm, and just mischievously funny. And he did always say what needed to be said. He was quick to compliment his teams and partners, and just as quick to highlight what needed to improve. He just inspired all of us to be better. He created environments where great work could actually happen. The third part of his personality, the one that mattered most to him, was showing up for people, for his teams, his friends, his family, and especially his kids. We've talked a lot today about Vince as a titan of gaming, and about the wildly successful franchises he helped create, and all of that is true. But what he would say often is, I just want to be remembered for being a great dad. He truly lived that. There were many meetings over the years he didn't attend, because he needed to be somewhere else, at a game, at a school event, or just simply being there for his kids when they needed him. This instinct to show up didn't stop with his family. He really showed up for people. He mentored, he supported, he believed in others, often before they believed in themselves. He created cultures where people felt trusted, protected, and challenged to be their best. Vince Zampella changed how games are made, but more importantly, he changed how people are treated while making them. His legacy isn't just in the franchises or awards. It lives in every studio that chooses trust over fear, craft over shortcuts, and people over ego. It lives in the leaders he shaped, the teams he empowered, and the incredible example he set for all of us. Vince's legacy isn't just what he built. It's who we choose to be because of him.
You know, Vince created an environment for those games to be made, and you can absolutely unequivocally say that because of that, he made the world a better place. And my God, what better legacy could you ever hope, and what better thing could you ever say about someone?
I know that I am one of the lucky ones who got to know him, and I feel very grateful for that. Vince, and I know you're up there watching, thank you so much for what you brought to the industry and to the world. I miss you, buddy.
You go back to Vince the person, not the stats, not the awards, not all the critical acclaim, but what did Vince do day in and day out that everybody respected and everybody believed was, yeah, this is how we need to show up. And it was being authentic, being just true to who you are.
まあいろんなことがあると思いますけど、皆さんも、ゲーム作ってて、でそういう時もやっぱり、ビンスが まあ、道を作ってきたようにですね、皆さんも、皆さんの道を作ってほしいというか、それを見ている誰かが、フォロワーが同じように勇気をもらって、前に進むことができると思いますので、そういうことで、まあ、ビンスを見習うというか、ビンスを目標に頑張っていただければと思います。
It wasn't always about the games or the business. Sometimes it was just about life and family and what's going on. And I just, just to feel that cared for by your hero and manager, I wish that for everybody. I just can't believe that this is the life that I got to be a part of, and it, all thanks to Vince.
When I'm trying to make a decision or I'm questioning something, what would Vince do? Before leading to whatever decision I was going to make, and I still ask myself that question pretty much every day. What would Vince do?
Vince, Vince. If you spent time with him, even a few days, a week, a month, you're like, you know what you need to know, because he's a real one. And that's so rare that we're not used to that, which is sad. But Vince shows us that it's okay. Just do it, be a real one like Vince, and maybe you can move the world like he did.